Hi, I'm Dr. John Carnegie and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Education Shed. Why a shed, you may ask? Well, the simple thing is we can't afford anything else. We're a very poor school. We work for kids who are really at risk and in many ways finding it hard to fit in society, and in many cases can't afford the types of fees that some of the private schools charge for education. So we turn to what we call real life learning, and in the process of real life learning we also open up the fact that young people today are disconnected in a huge way from mainstream school for many of them, and we estimate that it's up around 20%. And at the worst end of that, remember, there are some 266 young people last year in this state alone who took their own lives in the process of being involved in our education system. And we're not blaming anybody, but we certainly think it's not good enough. Why the shed? Well, the bottom line is everything that you need in life, I reckon, you find in the shed. In fact, if you think back to your own early experiences, most of them took place in a shed, the real learning ones. I remember once my mum told me to go out and paint the porch. I went into the shed and I painted the Porsche. A lovely maroon. She wasn't too happy with it. Nonetheless, I learnt the lesson. She gave me a whooping that you wouldn't believe, but at the end of it, I understood that you don't treat other people's property with contempt. I also understood when I built my first fence that if you don't build it level and if you don't measure things properly, in the end you're going to get a fence that looks a bit like this, which mine did. It was fantastic. You could step over that side and knock your head on that side. But the bottom line is it didn't work. And not only did it not work, I had to pay the price for it. I had to undo it and redo it again. Now, where is that in modern education if we really look at it? Other things in the shed, I've got my old mate the Scoob here. I can always come and have a talk to Scooby because Scooby understands what it's all about. I've got my wireless, so I can tune into some of my favourite tunes, a bit of the football if I need to, and I've got the best OH&S teacher that there has ever been, the tooth-edge saw. The bottom line is you want to teach a kid how to handle things, get them to touch the end of that, and they will understand very quickly that these things are not to be played with. Now, OH&S is massively important, but you do not need a 40-page manual to explain to a kid that if you start cutting this way across your fingers, you're going to be getting around like this for the rest of your days. The bottom line is the shed is where education began, and I think it's where education should finish. I want to leave you with this point. The Wright brothers, the most significant invention, I think, mechanically of its time when we talk about the aeroplane. What an amazing concept. But it did not take place in the classroom. It didn't take place with millions of dollars behind it. It took place in a shed and a field. And the beautiful thing that the Wright brothers said, even the shed was too much. Why? Because it had a roof. Now try flying a plane in something with a roof. Just like I say to kids in the classroom, this is a great place for you to get your basics together. But when it comes to applying it, get your backside out there and get into the shed. The shed is where real learning is done. I'm Dr. John Carnegie, and we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of The Education Shed.